From time to time you're bound to see a developer making some mistake like releasing a game too early, a publisher badly handling a game's development, and numerous other smaller mistakes that you can attribute to a single entity. These, however, are a different thing. These are the top 7 game industry blunders, things at which historians will look back on and say, oh my god, they are all crazy. What was wrong with all these people? Instances where it seemed like the entire video games industry, or the majority of it, just went nuts and did things that were kind of, well, not beneficial to them, or to us, or to anyone, to the point where you have to wonder, do they actually hate what they're doing and us? And the answer is always yes. That being said, let's get it started with number 7, constantly bungling licensed properties. This didn't used to be a thing. Licensed video games way back when, and I mean decades ago, were really not all that bad. Up until one in particular, around 1983, but even after it, there were still licensed games that were done right. And on occasion we do get one or two that are acceptable, but the majority of them, let's face it, they're not all that great. And what's worst is that the property itself is usually extremely mismanaged, mishandled, and completely, utterly wasted. I'll give you an example. In the last 15 years, we've had 2 Star Trek games that can be considered good, the MMO and the VR one. There was a Star Trek game in between them, the action one that should never have existed, as well as a bunch of mobile ones that are horrible, but that's it. Whereas Star Trek used to give us, well, we had Deep Space Nine The Fall, and we had Voyager Elite Force. We had a bunch, and I mean a bunch, of tactical games with the Starfleet Command series, and then nothing. And it's the exact same thing with Star Wars. It's in the hands of a single company that has stated that it is incapable of making a single-player Star Wars game that people would want to buy and play and enjoy. It is incapable of making a linear single-player story-driven Star Trek game that will sell. Whereas you could put Star Wars on a cabbage and it would sell. And the main problem is all these licenses are given to big companies who then farm them out to smaller studios and then never actually let them have fun with it in any way, shape, or form. Instead, they'll just tell them, well, it has to be like this. Also, we are slashing your budget, and half of you are fired. Surprise! Merry Christmas. Whereas the better approach would have been to give a license to a smaller studio that can, take risks, create something interesting, something original, a new take on a franchise maybe, or at least one that isn't the exact same game we've played 50,000 times, but with a Star Wars skin, and call it Battlefront. Number 6. Tablet gaming. Remember when tablets first came out? They seemed like, oh, this could be a thing, could it not? But it wasn't a thing for like a decade until Apple launched the iPad, and now everybody wanted one, and everybody started making them again. More, incredibly more. The market was flooded with tablets, and they had no games to run. Well, not exactly. The adventure game genre made a comeback big time with tablets. It's the perfect medium for adventure games. You click on things. That's all you need. It worked flawlessly, functional, perfect. Oh, they didn't really. I mean, what we got were mostly hidden object games and the interactive cinematics of Telltale adventure games. But still, we got the Monkey Island remakes on tablets, which was something good. The Broken Sword ones, which was also something good. And you kind of start to wonder, well, where are all your games? Why aren't there more games on tablets? Where's literally every game about constructing or managing something? If I'm gonna go to the bathroom and have a tablet with me, I want to play some Roller Coaster Tycoon. Did we get one? Well, yeah, we did. Last year. So about a decade of nothing, and then last year they decided, oh, you know what, those games are actually good, let's make those. No city builders. I mean, no real city builders. All the games we had on tablets were the Facebook variety, the dreadful, choiceless, challengeless, decisionless, joyless, gameplayless, Facebook trash, endless trash, as a wise man once said. And all they needed was to make proper ports of some old ass games, or make modernized versions of them slightly tweaked with maybe more cartoony graphics for the kiddies. But nobody did. Did they re-release Heroes of Might and Magic 2 on a tablet? No, they did it with 3, and that's it. And all that because, well, there was a perception that the only thing that could actually make money on tablets were free-to-play games with no gameplay. Yeah, that's because nobody released games there that were actually good, that people could enjoy. They settled. People settled because the games industry didn't make the first move. They didn't say, hey, you, I know what you like. I can give you what you like. You don't have to settle for that trash that's gonna disrespect you, treat you like dirt, like nothing but a bag of money with a face, not even a face. They'll probably put a bag over your face with a money sign on it, because that's all they care about. But we actually want you to enjoy yourself, to be happy. But they didn't do that. And now tablets are dead because, you know, they're pointless. Phones got big enough for porn now, and they had no apps to actually run, no games, no reason to exist. And if you say I'm wrong that they're still making iPads and stuff, look at the tablet market, the Android tablet market, and see if anybody's made one since 2014. I mean a new design, a new one with new hardware. They don't exist. Nobody's making them. They're dead. Number 5, ditching the PC for a few years. Now, the entire industry didn't do this, but a large chunk of it did it. A huge chunk of it. They just decided, oh, let's not port anything to the PC. We don't want money. I mean, all the people on the PC, they're just pirates. They're goddamn stink. Oh my god, the League of Legends made more money than we did in our entire lives, and it's a free game. Yeah, that's just a free game. I mean, they're just pirates. They're gonna play only what's, oh my god, World of Warcraft even requires a monthly tax, and it's pirated to hell and back, and still it's made more money than the rest of the industry put together. Can't we find a way to actually make a profit on this? Now, that would mean that we have to change the way in which we make games, and we can't do that just for the PC. We need to keep selling the games at $60 or something dollars, because that's the model that works everywhere else, and for some reason it doesn't work on PC. Well, it doesn't work on PC because everybody pirates. Oh, every game has sold how many millions of units after ditching stores, because the stores were treating the PC sector like crap, because we were treating it like crap. How much money did that studio with basically no budget invested in the game make? Oh, well, I guess we should make PC games again. And they did. They suddenly realized, oh, they're profitable. Oh, look, Steam, that Steam thing. Oh boy, digital distribution, not giving more money to a retailer. That's a thing that can work, and then everybody's happy. Well, not everybody, because we still have a culture of PCs are dead. Everybody that's complaining about the PC master race idiots on the web, just remember the PCs are dead idiots on the web from 10 years ago, oozing from places like game trailers and other places, smugly making fun of somebody because they wanted to play games on PC on a spreadsheet machine. Well, they're not laughing now because they're in complete denial they ever did that. And so is the industry. It's really not trying to make amends for things. And I'm not talking about apologizing to owners of PCs, because that would be stupid. I mean, reconsidering how they design interfaces to make them, you know, less up their own ass. Looking at you, Ubisoft and Bethesda, of course. Things are changing. You just kind of wish they were changing faster. Number 4, the motion control craze. Remember that everybody wanted in on the motion control craze. When Nintendo brought out the Wii and it turned out to be a gigantic success, selling, I think it reached at least 90 million, if not 100 million units sold. Everybody wanted a piece of it, and everybody started making motion controls. We got the Kinect, we got the PlayStation Move, we got a bajillion Chinese ripoffs, and nobody made an actual goddamn game for it. Yeah, Nintendo had their motion controlled things. I mean, you could play Metroid as a first-person shooter that you could actually control your hands. I mean, by aiming. That was good. Sony, Microsoft, nope. They had to do literally one thing, and I mean one thing. Whoever had the Star Wars license then had to make a Jedi game where you handle a lightsaber using, you know, either the Kinect or the PlayStation Move. That would have been a system seller. That would have gone gangbusters. Heck, okay, you can't get the Star Wars license because, I don't know, LucasArts was up its own ass then as well. Get something that is similar. Make up something. Have it be a spirit phaser sword. Because guess what? Using that thing to chop people's heads off is fun, but nobody did it. Nobody. The closest thing we got was that stupid ass Kinect game that was more about dancing than, you know, the Jedi thing. Dancing game were the only thing that motion controls brought to gaming, honestly. The only thing. And that wasn't enough to sustain it. Not nearly enough. It needed, you know, games, more stuff to do that's not dancing. VR, in the blink of an eye it's existed, already has more content, with more varied games, more interesting games, more beheading games than all of motion control in its decade-long history. Also, it would probably help if the Kinect ever actually worked, because let's kind of face it, still didn't. It's an okay 3D camera, not really what you would need to control a shooter or an action game or something that runs at 60 frames a second. Number 3, killing music games. Remember those? Before the dancing games, there were the music games. The Guitar Hero, the Rock Band, but especially the Guitar Hero. From 2005 to 2009, it was the game. It was the biggest game. Everybody was playing it. It was a pop culture phenomenon. It was everywhere. South Park even had an episode with it. And then it died. And I mean died completely. It went from the biggest thing in the world to nothing. It went from generating billions to the studios making it being closed down, people getting fired, and companies needing to crowdfund ports of games. And why did that happen? Because instead of innovating, instead of actually trying to change something from one edition to the other, they just added more songs, cashed in the money, and I don't know, I think Kotick bought a gold-plated jet, a second one or third one. This was mostly Activision's doing, because they had Guitar Hero. Electronic Arts tried their hand with Rock Band. That it worked for a while, but it didn't do much either. Then we had DJ Hero, and then, what was it, Ukulele Hero? Vuvuzela Champion? Ocarina Master from Nintendo? And it sort of stopped, because nobody was buying them. It was a gimmick that did not evolve, did not go anywhere, and just stopped being interesting to people. Ubisoft at least tried with Guitar Smith, whatever the thing was called, where we actually had to plug in an actual guitar and learn to play music. But you basically have nothing close to the level of hype that Guitar Hero had. Nothing. And all because the industry decided in unison to completely screw over a genre and the people that made it. Number 2, no unions. Here's a fun fact: if you work in the video games industry, you are basically a little bitch. And I mean that in the most heartfelt way possible. There is such a thing in all civilized countries where people have rights as a union. The union represents the people working in a certain sector, in a certain type of job. It is the objective of that union, the reason for which it exists. It's raison d'etre, if you will, to negotiate for those people for proper benefits, work conditions, salaries, and it can do it much better than an individual can, because an individual has no power compared to a big company or an industry. But all those individuals together, they have that power. And this is something you see in most fields of work, except video games. In video games, the people making them, they get a salary and then bupkis. They probably get fired. Hell, they're probably going to be told they're being fired 2 or 3 months before they finish making the game. And if that game goes on to sell bajillions, they're not ever going to see anything from that game, ever. What, do you think Tom Hall gets any money if you buy Anachronox from GOG, even though he thought up the whole thing? No. Do you think the people that worked day and night programming every game you've ever loved actually get royalties? No. The music does, if it's licensed and not made by the in-house composer, musician person that's gonna get the shaft too. The famous voice actors, maybe, you know, the ones from Hollywood or from that TV show that everybody likes now and will forget in 2 years, they may have a deal like that because somebody negotiated for them. A lawyer, an agent, an agency, but game developers have nothing like that. Voice actors almost are starting to have something like that. This is, without a doubt, one of the biggest blunders possible in the video games industry. It's been almost 40 years, it's been almost 50 years since the whole thing started, and nothing has improved. We just have the promise of, oh, we're not gonna whip people and lock them in dungeons until the development is done. But everybody still talks about crunch time, like how it's something that needs to be done and you have to work 100 hours a week. Otherwise, you may actually have a deadline that is realistic to meet and wasn't said by somebody that hates you. How there are still no unions for game developers is just mind-boggling. But not as much as number 1, 1983. I've covered this a bit in the Year.Game series for 1983 and 1982, but this is without a doubt the biggest blunder possible. Back then, the games industry, the console games industry in the US was owned by a single company. It was owned by Atari. Atari had the console, Atari was making the bulk of the games. It wasn't a monopoly because Activision showed up and started making its own games, good games at the start, and then a bunch of other people started making their own games and they were not all that good, but the main player was still Atari, and somehow Atari did not give two shits about the industry at all. It just churned out crap after crap. It churned out shovelware like it was a small, second-rate Wii developer. It had everything in its favor and nothing came out of it. It would be like Thanos getting all the gems and the glove and then moping about his apartment, watching ancient aliens and eating junk food, and then complaining that, oh, why is there so much life in the universe? If only there was a way to stop it, but it's not like I can do anything, you know, like snap my fingers. And Atari had it all, but because it was managed so badly, it treated everybody working for it like complete crap. Like, it didn't even matter what was in the boxes, what absolute drivel was in the boxes. It didn't matter that it gave the guy that made E.T. just a couple of weeks to actually make the game. Nothing mattered to it. And then, surprise, it killed the entire North American console industry. It died, ceased to exist, with full control, or at least most control over its own platform, over the entire market. It crapped its pants, slipped on what was down there, and plunged headfirst into a pile of fresh manure, also produced by itself. How a company is even capable of doing that should be a study that is required reading for any sort of business school or anybody that ever wants to get into any sort of business or game development or software development or management or pretty much anything. It is one of the biggest cock-ups in history, no matter if it's gaming related or not. It is awe-inspiring to the point where even the Communist Party was saying, dude, I mean, Tovarish, not even our 5-year plan is this bad. How do you do it? Please teach us. So closes the top 7 game industry blunders. Special mentions are awarded to making games now always online. That's gonna play out so well when the servers will die. And to putting microtransactions and everything, because again, that's gonna go so well in the future when they make even more stuff microtransaction based. Like, oh, you pay $60 for a game, cool, that gets you the demo. Now all you have to do is pay 50 installments of $10 if you want to play the rest of the game, instead of, you know, just making the game cost $100 like they've wanted to since 2009. If you've got your own suggestions for what would be the biggest blunders of the gaming industry, make sure to mention them in the comments. Goodbye.